The first shot rang out just as Tabitha Porter clutched her son to her chest, her heart pounding against her ribs like a wild mustang. Wyoming Territory, 1876, a time when the law was as scarce as rain in summer, and a woman alone might as well be wearing a target on her back. "Hush, William," she whispered, pressing her palm against the 5-year-old boy's mouth as another bullet splintered the wooden wall of their small cabin. "Don't make a sound." William's wide blue eyes, so like his father's, stared up at her in silent terror. Outside, men's voices carried on the night wind rough, angry voices demanding what little they had left after months of struggling to survive. "Porter woman! Send out what you owe, or we're coming in to take it." Tabitha closed her eyes briefly. Her late husband Thomas had borrowed money from the wrong people, and now, 6 months after typhoid had claimed him, they'd come to collect. She had nothing to give them, nothing except the small parcel of land that was all she had left to provide for her son. "There's nothing here," she called back, her voice stronger than she felt. "Leave us be." The answering laugh chilled her blood. "That ain't how this works, lady." The sound of boots on the porch made her reach for Thomas's old revolver, but she knew she had only 2 bullets left. Not enough to fight off the 3 men she glimpsed through the window. "Mama?" William whispered, his small hand clutching her skirts. "Are we going to die like Papa?" "No," Tabitha said fiercely, gathering him closer. "No one's taking you from me." When the door splintered inward, Tabitha raised the gun with shaking hands. The first man, through a squat, bearded brute with tobacco-stained teeth, stopped short at the sight of the weapon. "Now, ain't that cute?" he sneered. "The widow thinks she can fight." "I don't want to shoot," Tabitha said, her voice steady despite her terror. "But I will if you come any closer." The second man stepped in, taller and leaner with a face pockmarked by smallpox. "Put that down 'fore you hurt yourself, woman. We just want what's owed, plus interest." "I have nothing to give you," she said. "My husband's dead. Whatever he owed died with him." "That ain't how Mr. Calloway sees it," said the third man, still half hidden in the shadows of the doorway. "And what Mr. Calloway wants, he gets." The name sent a wave of dread through her. Elias Calloway owned half the businesses in the nearby town of Redemption Creek, a man known for his ruthlessness and complete lack of mercy. The bearded man took a step forward. "Now, there's ways to settle this debt that don't involve money, if you catch my meaning." Tabitha's finger tightened on the trigger. "Take one more step and I'll—" The shot that rang out didn't come from her gun. It came from somewhere outside, the report echoing across the valley. The bearded man jerked, his expression confused as a red stain bloomed across his chest. He crumpled to his knees, then toppled forward onto the rough-hewn floorboards. The remaining 2 men whirled, guns drawn, only to face a tall silhouette in the doorway. The stranger fired twice more in rapid succession. The pockmarked man screamed, clutching his shattered hand, while the third attacker fell back against the wall, sliding down with a crimson trail marking his path. "I believe the lady asked you to leave," the newcomer said, his voice as hard and unforgiving as the Wyoming winter. Tabitha kept her gun raised, unsure if this new arrival was friend or foe. He stepped into the cabin, revealing himself in the lantern light, broad-shouldered, with a face weathered by sun and wind. A dusty black hat shadowed his eyes, but she could see they were watching her carefully. "You all right, madam?" he asked, keeping his revolver trained on the wounded man. "Who are you?" Tabitha demanded. "Name's Aaron Farley," he answered, giving a slight nod. "Was passing through when I heard the commotion." The pockmarked man started to raise his good hand, and Aaron shifted his aim. "I wouldn't. Calloway will have your head for this," the man snarled. Aaron smiled, though there was no warmth in it. "He's welcome to try." To Tabitha, he said, "Madam, if you've got rope, we should tie this one up. Sheriff ought to know these men were threatening a woman and child." Tabitha hesitated, then lowered her gun slightly. "Sheriff Moss is in Calloway's pocket." "Then we've got a problem," Aaron said, his expression grim. William peeked out from behind his mother, staring wide-eyed at the scene before him. Mama? Who is he? Before Tabitha could answer, the wounded man lunged for a fallen gun. Aaron fired without hesitation, the bullet finding its mark with deadly accuracy. The cabin fell silent save for William's frightened breathing. Get what you need, Aaron said after a moment. You can't stay here tonight. I'm not leaving, Tabitha said firmly. This land is all we have left. And you'll be dead by morning if Calloway's men come looking for these three, Aaron countered. Pack what you can carry. I've got horses out back. Why should I trust you? She asked, still clutching her gun. Aaron studied her for a long moment, then holstered his weapon. Because right now, madam, I'm the only chance you and your boy have of seeing sunrise. There was truth in his words, and Tabitha knew it. With reluctance born of desperation, she nodded once. Give us 5 minutes. While she hastily packed a small bundle of clothes and the few valuables they possessed, Aaron dragged the bodies outside. William watched him with a mixture of fear and fascination. Is he a bad man, Mama? He whispered as Tabitha stuffed a faded photograph of Thomas into her bag. Tabitha glanced out the window where Aaron was leading 3 horses into view. I don't know yet, William. But he saved us tonight. When they emerged from the cabin, Aaron was waiting with the horses ready. He lifted William onto the smallest mount, then offered his hand to help Tabitha onto another. Where are we going? She asked, settling into the saddle. I know a place, he answered, swinging up onto his own horse. Old trapper's cabin about 10 miles north. Not much to look at, but it's well hidden. As they rode away from the only home William had ever known, Tabitha looked back once at the small cabin silhouetted against the star-filled sky. She had no idea if she'd ever see it again, or if she was making the biggest mistake of her life by trusting this stranger. Aaron led them through terrain that grew increasingly rugged, following what seemed to be game trails rather than established paths. The moon provided just enough light to navigate, but Tabitha noticed how he frequently stopped to listen, his body tense with alertness. You're running from something too, she said after one such pause. It wasn't a question. Aaron glanced at her, his expression unreadable in the darkness. Everyone in these parts is running from something, madam. Tabitha, she said. My name is Tabitha Porter. And this is my son, William. Aaron nodded. Good to meet you properly, though I wish the circumstances were better. William, who had been remarkably quiet during their flight, suddenly pointed ahead. Look, Mama! A house! The cabin was little more than a crude shelter of logs and stone, half built into the side of a hill and nearly invisible until they were almost upon it. Aaron dismounted and checked inside before waving them forward. Not much, but it'll keep you dry, he said, helping William down. The boy immediately clung to his mother's skirts. The interior was dusty but intact, a single room with a stone fireplace, rough wooden table, and what might generously be called a bed in one corner. Aaron quickly built a small fire, careful to keep the smoke minimal. Calloway's men won't find you here, he said, setting his saddlebags down. But come morning, we'll need to figure out what's next. Tabitha settled William on the bed, wrapping him in the blanket Aaron had provided. The boy was exhausted, his eyes already drooping despite the night's terrors. She stroked his hair until his breathing deepened into sleep. You know Calloway, she said quietly, joining Aaron by the fire. He poked at the embers with a stick. I know men like him. They think owning land means owning people too. My husband borrowed money to buy seed after last year's drought, Tabitha explained, staring into the flames. He promised he'd pay it back after harvest. The typhoid took him before he could. Aaron nodded. And Calloway decided to collect from his widow. I've been selling eggs, milk, whatever I could produce, trying to pay him back little by little. Her hands twisted in her lap. But it's never enough. He keeps adding interest. It's an old trick, Aaron said, his voice hard. He doesn't want your money. He wants your land. Tabitha looked up sharply. How do you know that? Because that's how men like him operate. Your property borders Redemption Creek, doesn't it? When she nodded, he continued, "Water rights. It's always about water in these parts." "So what do I do now?" Tabitha asked, a note of desperation creeping into her voice. "I can't keep running. My boy's all I've got." Aaron's gaze shifted to the sleeping child, something softening in his expression. "Then he's ours from now on." The words hung in the air between them, unexpected and startling. Tabitha stared at him, uncertain of his meaning. "What I mean," Aaron clarified, looking almost embarrassed, "is that I'll help you both. I won't let Calloway take what's yours." "Why?" Tabitha asked. "You don't know us." Aaron was quiet for a long moment, the firelight casting shadows across his face. "Because 5 years ago, I watched a man like Calloway take everything from a family that couldn't fight back. I did nothing then. I'm not making that mistake again." There was something in his voice, a raw honesty that made Tabitha believe him. "Thank you," she said softly. "Get some rest," he replied, tipping his hat lower over his eyes. "I'll keep watch." Tabitha joined William on the narrow bed, but sleep eluded her as questions tumbled through her mind. Who was this man who had risked his life for strangers? What battle of his own was he fighting? And most troubling of all, what would happen when morning came? Dawn broke with a gentle persistence that belied the danger they faced. Tabitha awoke to find William already up, sitting beside Aaron at the small table while the man taught him how to whittle a piece of wood. "See, you always cut away from yourself," Aaron was saying, guiding the boy's small hands. "Never toward." William's face was screwed up in concentration, his tongue poking out between his lips as he focused on the task. It had been months since Tabitha had seen him so engaged, so childlike. Since Thomas died, he'd grown too serious, too aware of their precarious situation. "Good morning," she said, sitting up and smoothing her rumpled skirts. Aaron looked up, a smile transforming his weathered face. "The young man here's been helping me scout. Got a good eye, your boy." William beamed at the praise. "Mr. Aaron showed me deer tracks outside, and how to tell which way they were going." "Did he now?" Tabitha couldn't help returning the smile. "And have you had breakfast?" "Jerky and hardtack," Aaron answered, looking slightly apologetic. "Not much of a feast, but it'll keep us going." As they shared the meager meal, Aaron outlined his plan. "We need to establish your legal claim to the land. If Thomas borrowed against it, there should be papers somewhere." "In his desk at the cabin," Tabitha confirmed. "But going back there is dangerous," Aaron finished for her. "Which is why you and William will stay here while I go." Tabitha shook her head firmly. "No. If we're going to fight for our home, we do it together. Mrs. Porter, Tabitha," she corrected him. "And I'm not some fragile flower, Mr. Farley. I've been running that farm alone since Thomas fell ill." Aaron studied her for a moment, then nodded slowly. "All right. But we do this carefully. First stop is Redemption Creek. I need to know what we're up against. Calloway owns the general store, the saloon, and half the mines," Tabitha told him. "The only business that stands against him is the newspaper, run by Emma Winters. She's a friend. Then she's our first ally," Aaron decided. "We'll need more than just the three of us to stand against Calloway." They set out mid-morning, taking a circuitous route that kept them away from main trails. William rode with Aaron, his small body secure in front of the cowboy's larger frame. Tabitha watched them, noting how naturally Aaron adjusted to having a child in his care, how William seemed to trust him implicitly. "Have you got children of your own?" she asked during a brief rest. Something like pain flashed across Aaron's face. "No. Never had the chance to settle down that way." "You're good with him," she observed. "Had younger brothers," Aaron replied with a shrug. "Someone had to keep them in line." He didn't elaborate further, and Tabitha didn't press. As they approached the outskirts of Redemption Creek, Aaron drew their horses to a halt in a stand of cottonwoods. "We can't all ride in together. Too risky. The newspaper office is on the east end of town," Tabitha said. "Emma sometimes stays late, Working on the next edition. Aaron nodded, thinking. Here's what we'll do. You and William wait here until sunset. I'll go in, find Emma, and bring her out if she's willing to help. If I'm not back by full dark, take the horses and head north. There's a ranger station about 20 miles up, they'll help you. Tabitha wanted to object, but she knew he was right. William's safety had to come first. Be careful, she said instead. Aaron adjusted his hat, checking his revolvers. Always am, madam. He looked at William seriously. You take care of your mama while I'm gone, understand? William nodded solemnly. Yes, sir. As Aaron rode away, Tabitha felt an unexpected tightness in her chest. In just one day, this stranger had somehow become their protector, their hope. If anything happened to him, he'll come back, Mama, William said confidently, interrupting her thoughts. He promised. Tabitha smiled, wishing she had her son's faith. Yes, he did. The hours crawled by with excruciating slowness. Tabitha kept William occupied with quiet games and whispered stories, all while straining her ears for any approaching riders. The sun began its slow descent, painting the western sky in shades of orange and gold. When hoofbeats finally approached their hiding place, Tabitha drew her gun, pushing William behind a fallen log. 3 riders emerged from the growing shadows: Aaron, a woman in practical riding clothes, and a tall man Tabitha didn't recognize. It's all right, Aaron called softly. Friends. Tabitha emerged cautiously, William clinging to her skirts. The woman dismounted first, her shrewd eyes taking in Tabitha's appearance. Tabitha Porter, she said with a nod. You've caused quite a stir. Calloway's men are tearing the county apart looking for you. Emma, Tabitha acknowledged with relief. Thank you for coming. Emma Winters was a handsome woman in her 30s, with intelligent eyes and a determined set to her jaw. Your friend here tells me Calloway's trying to steal your land through debt collection. It's not the first time. The man who had accompanied them stepped forward. Daniel Cooper, madam. I run the assay office. He was thin and scholarly looking, with spectacles perched on a narrow nose. Calloway's been consolidating water rights for months. We think he's planning to dam the creek to supply his mines, which would leave half the valley without water, Emma added grimly. You're not the only one he's pressuring, Aaron rejoined them, leading the horses. We need a safe place to strategize. Emma's offered her printing office. Too risky now, Emma countered. Calloway's men are watching it. But my brother has a hunting cabin a few miles east, we can go there. The cabin proved larger and more comfortable than their previous hideout, 2 rooms, with actual furniture and a well-stocked pantry. As night fell completely, they gathered around a table where Emma spread out a map of the county. These properties in red are ones Calloway has acquired in the past year, she explained, indicating several parcels along the creek. Yours is here, Tabitha, one of the last pieces he needs. What about the legal papers? Aaron asked. If Thomas borrowed against the land, the loan document would be filed with the county clerk, Daniel said. But the clerk works for Calloway too. Then we need leverage, Aaron concluded. Something Calloway wants to keep hidden. Emma smiled thinly. That's why I brought Daniel. Tell them what you found. Daniel adjusted his spectacles nervously. I've been keeping records of all or samples that come through my office. According to official reports, Calloway's mines produce modest amounts of silver. But my assays show they're producing nearly triple what he's reporting. He's cheating on his taxes, Aaron said, understanding immediately. And the territorial government's share of mining profits, Daniel added. It's fraud on a massive scale. Tabitha looked between them. How does this help me keep my land? Leverage, Emma repeated. Exposure of this fraud would ruin him and likely send him to prison. If we can get proof the actual books from his office, we can force him to back down. Breaking into his office is suicide, Aaron objected. Not if he's distracted, Emma countered. The Independence Day celebration is tomorrow. Everyone will be in the town square for the speeches and fireworks. A plan began to take shape as the night deepened. Emma would create a diversion at the celebration while Aaron and Daniel broke into Calloway's office. Meanwhile, Tabitha would retrieve the loan documents from her cabin. "I don't like splitting up," Aaron said, his concern evident as he looked at Tabitha. "I'll be with her," Emma assured him. "And William will stay here with my brother. He'll be safe." Later, after Emma and Daniel had retired to the second room and William was asleep, Tabitha found Aaron sitting on the porch, staring at the stars. "You don't have to do this," she said quietly, sitting beside him. "This isn't your fight." Aaron didn't look at her. "When I was 16, my family had a small ranch in Colorado. Nothing fancy, but it was ours. Man named Blackwell wanted our water rights too." Tabitha waited as he collected his thoughts, sensing he was sharing something he rarely spoke of. "My pa refused to sell. One night riders came. Burned our barn, shot our livestock." His voice had gone flat. "Pa confronted them. They gunned him down in front of my mother and my brothers. Aaron, I'm so sorry," he continued as if he hadn't heard her. "We had no choice but to sell after that, for pennies on the dollar. Ma never recovered from seeing Pa killed. She died that winter. My brother scattered." He finally turned to look at her. "So yes, Tabitha, this is my fight." "It's the same fight, just different players." Impulsively, she reached out and took his hand. It was rough and calloused, a working man's hand. "Thank you," she whispered. Their eyes held for a long moment, and Tabitha felt something shift between them, a recognition, perhaps, of kindred spirits. Two people who had lost much but refused to surrender. Aaron's fingers tightened around hers briefly before he pulled away, clearing his throat. "We should get some rest. Tomorrow will test us all." The 4th of July dawned bright and clear, the kind of perfect summer day that seemed to mock their dangerous plans. After a tense breakfast, they reviewed their strategy one final time. "Remember, if anything goes wrong, we meet back here," Emma instructed. "No heroics." William clung to Tabitha when it was time to leave, suddenly fearful. "Don't go, Mama. I'm scared." Tabitha knelt before him, cupping his face in her hands. "I have to go so we can keep our home, sweetheart. I'll be back before you know it." Aaron crouched beside them. "Your ma's the bravest person I know, William. And I promise I'll make sure she comes back to you." The boy looked between them, then reached into his pocket and pulled out a small wooden figure, the carving he and Aaron had been working on. It was crude but recognizable as a horse. "For luck," he said, pressing it into Aaron's palm. Aaron swallowed visibly before tucking it carefully into his shirt pocket. "I'll bring it back safe," he promised. They set off in different directions, Emma and Tabitha toward the Porter homestead, Aaron and Daniel toward town. The day stretched before them, hot and fraught with possibility. Tabitha and Emma approached the cabin cautiously, dismounting a distance away and proceeding on foot through the trees. The bodies of Calloway's men were gone, but evidence of violence remained, dark stains on the porch, a bullet hole in the doorframe. "Looks clear," Emma whispered as they watched the cabin for any signs of movement. They slipped inside, and Tabitha went straight to Thomas's desk in the corner. The small drawer where he kept important papers was locked. "Stand back," Emma said, pulling a small tool from her pocket. With deft movements that spoke of unexpected skills, she picked the lock in seconds. "Where did you learn to do that?" Tabitha asked, impressed. Emma smiled grimly. "A newspaper woman has many talents. Some less respectable than others." Inside the drawer, they found what they were looking for, the loan agreement bearing Thomas's signature and Calloway's, along with several threatening letters demanding payment with ever-increasing interest. "This is usury," Emma said, scanning the terms. "The interest he's charging is illegal even by territorial standards." A sudden noise outside froze them both. Through the window, they spotted two riders approaching, Calloway's men patrolling the property. "Back door," Tabitha whispered, stuffing the papers into her bag. They slipped out the rear of the cabin just as the men reached the front porch. "Someone's been here," they heard one of them call. "Tracks are fresh." Crouching low, Tabitha and Emma made their way through the vegetable garden and into the cornfield beyond. The stalks were tall enough to provide cover as they moved slowly away from the cabin. "If they find our horses," Emma began. "They won't," Tabitha assured her. "They're tied in the thicket by the creek." Meanwhile, in Redemption Creek, the Independence Day celebration was in full swing. Bunting decorated the buildings, and a small brass band played patriotic tunes in the square. Aaron and Daniel blended with the crowd, working their way toward Calloway's office above the general store. "There he is," Daniel murmured, nodding toward a portly man in an expensive suit holding court among the town's elite. Elias Calloway was shorter than Aaron had expected, but there was no mistaking the power he wielded. Even the mayor deferred to him. "How long until the speeches?" Aaron asked. 20 minutes. Calloway speaks last, as always." They separated, with Daniel positioning himself near the podium while Aaron circled around to the back of the general store. The rear staircase that led to Calloway's office was unguarded. Everyone was focused on the festivities. Aaron climbed quietly, testing each step before putting his full weight on it. At the top, he found the door locked, but like Emma, he had skills from a questionable past. The lock yielded to his pick set, and he slipped inside. The office was opulent compared to the rest of the town: plush carpet, heavy oak furniture, and a massive safe in the corner. It was the ledgers on the desk that interested Aaron, however. He quickly located the mining accounts and began photographing pages with the small camera Daniel had provided. Below, the speeches were beginning. Through the window, Aaron could see Daniel moving into position near a stack of fireworks that had been prepared for the evening display. The diversion would come when Calloway took the podium. As Aaron worked, the sound of footsteps on the stairs made him freeze. Someone was coming. He quickly closed the ledgers and looked for a place to hide. The office had few options: a closet, under the desk, or behind the heavy curtains. The door opened before he could decide. A young man in expensive clothes entered, looking surprised to find someone in his father's office. "Who the hell are you?" he demanded, his hand moving toward his gun. Aaron raised his hands slowly. "Just delivering some papers for your father, sir." The door was open. "Like hell it was," the young man snarled, drawing his weapon. "You're one of those troublemakers working with that newspaper woman." Outside, cheers erupted as Calloway took the podium. Aaron knew the diversion would come any moment. "I think there's been a misunderstanding," he said, edging toward the window. "Why don't we go down and speak to your father?" The young man sneered. "After I see what you were really doing in here." The explosion came right on cue, not the small diversion they had planned, but a massive blast that shook the building. The fireworks had detonated prematurely, sending the crowd into panic. The young man turned instinctively toward the window, and Aaron seized his chance. The struggle was brief but violent. The gun discharged once, the bullet splintering the desk. Aaron managed to disarm him and delivered a blow that left Calloway's son unconscious on the carpet. Knowing their plan was now in chaos, Aaron grabbed the ledgers and the camera and ran for the stairs. Below, people were shouting and running in all directions. Smoke billowed from where the fireworks had been stored. Daniel appeared at his side, breathless. "Something went wrong. That wasn't supposed to happen. We need to get out of town," Aaron said, tucking the evidence into his saddlebags. "Where's Calloway?" "Injured in the blast. Not serious, but enough to create confusion." They mounted quickly and rode hard out of town, taking a roundabout route in case they were followed. As they crested a hill, Aaron looked back at the smoke rising from Redemption Creek. "What happened back there wasn't our plan," Daniel said, his face pale. "Someone must have tampered with the fireworks." Aaron nodded grimly. "Or someone had the same idea we did. Either way, we got what we came for." When they reached the hunting cabin, they found Emma and Tabitha had returned safely with the loan documents. William threw himself into Aaron's arms the moment he walked through the door. "You came back!" the boy exclaimed. "Just like you promised!" Aaron lifted him up, surprised at how natural it felt. "I keep my promises, William." Over the boy's head, his eyes met Tabitha's. The relief in her face shifted to concern as she noted his disheveled appearance and the bruise forming on his jaw. "Things got complicated," he explained as he set William down. "But we got the evidence." As night fell, they spread their collected evidence on the table. The loan documents proved Calloway was charging illegal interest rates, while the ledgers revealed tax fraud on a massive scale. "This is enough to ruin him," Emma said, examining the papers. "But he'll fight dirty. He always does. Which is why we need to move quickly," Aaron replied. "Tomorrow morning, we take this to Judge Harmon in Cheyenne. He's known to be honest, beyond Calloway's influence." "And he hates Calloway," Daniel added. "There's bad blood between them going back years." Tabitha looked at the evidence that might save her home, then at William playing by the fire. "Even if this works, Calloway will know it was us. We'll never be safe here." Aaron sat beside her, his voice low. "There are other places, Tabitha. Other towns where a family could start fresh." "And leave the land that Thomas and I worked so hard for?" she asked, pain evident in her voice. "Sometimes holding on costs more than letting go," he said gently. "I learned that the hard way." Later, after William was asleep and the others had retired, Tabitha found Aaron on the porch again. This time, she didn't hesitate to sit close beside him. "I've been thinking about what you said," she began. "About starting fresh somewhere else." Aaron nodded, waiting for her to continue. "For so long, I've defined myself by that piece of land. Thomas and I built our dreams there." She twisted her hands in her lap. "But these past days have shown me that home isn't about the land. It's about the people you love." Their eyes met in the darkness, and Tabitha felt her heart quicken. In just a few days, this man had risked everything for her and William. He'd shown a gentleness with her son that touched her deeply. "William needs a father," she said softly. "And I." She hesitated, suddenly unsure. Aaron took her hand, his touch gentle despite his calloused palm. "Tabitha, I'm not looking to replace Thomas. But if you'll let me, I'd like to be part of your lives, yours and William's." "Why?" she asked, needing to hear him say it. "Because when I'm with you both, I feel like I've found something I lost a long time ago." He smiled slightly. "A family. A purpose." Tabitha leaned forward slowly, giving him time to pull away if he wished. He didn't. Their lips met in a tender kiss that held promise rather than passion, the beginning of something rather than its culmination. When they parted, Aaron's expression was serious. "Whatever happens tomorrow, we face it together." "Together," she agreed. The journey to Cheyenne the next day was tense but uneventful. Judge Harmon, a stern man with a reputation for absolute integrity, reviewed their evidence in silence. When he finally spoke, his verdict was clear. "This is enough for multiple indictments. Tax fraud, usury, intimidation." He looked at Tabitha over his spectacles. "Mrs. Porter, your loan is hereby nullified due to its illegal terms. Your land remains yours." "And Calloway?" Aaron asked. "Will face prosecution to the fullest extent of the law," the judge assured them. "I'm issuing warrants for his arrest and freezing his assets immediately." When they emerged from the courthouse, Tabitha felt as though a great weight had been lifted. William, who had waited patiently with Emma, ran to her with a smile that she hadn't seen since before Thomas fell ill. "Does this mean we can go home, Mama?" he asked. Tabitha looked at Aaron, who stood a respectful distance away, giving her space to make her own decision. "Actually, sweetheart," she said, kneeling to William's level, "I thought we might go on an adventure first. Mr. Aaron knows some beautiful country in Colorado. Would you like to see mountains with snow on them even in summer?" William's eyes widened. "Really?" He looked at Aaron hopefully. "Would you come with us?" Aaron stepped closer, joining their small circle. If your mama wants me to. I do, Tabitha said firmly. Very much. They married 2 weeks later in a small ceremony in Denver, with Emma and Daniel as witnesses. The territorial prosecutor had moved swiftly against Calloway, whose empire was crumbling as former victims came forward with their own stories of intimidation and fraud. Tabitha sold her land to a family from Ohio for a fair price, using the money to buy a small ranch near Durango where she and Aaron could build a new life together. The land was fertile, with a clear stream running through it and mountains rising majestically in the distance. On their first evening in their new home, they sat on the porch watching William chase fireflies in the gathering dusk. Aaron's arm rested comfortably around Tabitha's shoulders, her head leaned against him. Happy? He asked quietly. Tabitha smiled, watching her son their son now as he laughed and darted among the tall grasses. Happier than I ever thought I could be again. Aaron pulled her closer, pressing a kiss to her temple. Your boy was all you had, he reminded her. And now he has a father who loves him, she replied, turning to meet his gaze. And I have a husband who taught me that sometimes you find love when you least expect it. William ran up to them, breathless and grinning, a mason jar clutched in his hands. Inside, a single firefly pulsed with golden light. Look what I caught! He exclaimed. Can I keep it? Aaron examined the jar seriously. Only if you let it go before bedtime. Wild things need their freedom. William considered this, then nodded. I'll let it go now. It can come back if it wants to. As they watched him release the glowing insect, Tabitha felt a profound sense of rightness settle over her. The path that had led them here had been fraught with danger and loss, but it had also brought unexpected joy. Thank you, she whispered to Aaron, for becoming our family. His answer was simple but filled with promise. Always. In the years that followed, their family grew. A daughter joined them the following spring, a little girl with her father's eyes and her mother's determination. The ranch prospered under their care, becoming known throughout the region for its fine horses. Sometimes Tabitha would think of Thomas and the life they had planned together. She kept his photograph in a special place, and made sure William never forgot the father who had loved him first. But her heart had expanded, making room for the love that had found her when she least expected it. And on summer evenings, when the fireflies danced in the meadow and their children's laughter echoed across the land, Tabitha and Aaron would sit on their porch, hands entwined, grateful for the twist of fate that had brought them together in the wild country they now called home.